Everybody's seen this slide before, and again, we're Hillcrest to Coit tonight. So going through the budgets and trying to re-identify for everybody where the dollars are coming from and who gets what. Residential adjacency, everybody gets a part of that budget. So when you look at the lines, again, the lines may not indicate the exact placement of the walls, but they indicate who has budget allocated to their properties. So the yellow, as I get into the maps, everybody has that dollar amount, and 4,800 lineal feet is what we're talking about in this residential group. Conbelt betterments are where the mitigation walls are not required. And the dark board in August passed a resolution to allow for dollars to go into a betterment wall, and that is based on a 12-foot wall. Betterments are above and beyond the standard mitigation measures, and again, there's two betterment budgets that we'll be discussing tonight, and that's the dark residential betterments, that's the one that's in yellow, that's for everybody. And then the Conbelt corridor betterments, and that's the blue line that you'll see up on the screen, and that is for those folks that don't have mitigation walls assigned to their properties. So again, I've already talked about this betterment twice now, so real briefly, Conbelt betterment wall is a 12-foot wall. That's what the budget is based on. Does not mean that that's what has to be built if the neighborhood so chooses. Residential betterments are enhancements to the right-of-way. Can be enhancements to the wall, can be enhanced landscaping, and different access points could be enhanced as well. In this betterments policy, it is required that consensus vote rules. That's why every residential adjacent property has now have a valid ID assigned to their property. So when you look at these maps, you find your home, that number is your ballot number, and that's how we'll be tracking who's responded and who has given us feedback on what you would like to see behind your home. So going through a couple cross sections, so you can kind of get a lay of the land, what the rail would look like out there. This is what it looks like everywhere besides North Dallas behind your homes. So there's no walls, there's fencing where required for hazard analysis, and two tracks going down the center of the right-of-way. As we get into some of the more pertinent areas in North Dallas, if there's homes on the right-hand side of the screen that's warranted walls, it's a 15-foot sound wall, 12 foot from center, and it's measured from top of track is 15 feet. This is where you have homes on both sides. Both sides have warranted walls, mitigated walls. So you have a 15-foot sound wall on both sides of the track, 12 foot from center, 15 foot from top of track. Then we start getting into where we have betterment walls on one side. This is depicting a 12-foot betterment wall on the left-hand side. And that is measured from top of rail. So that is a change from the last meeting we had. DART executive management made a decision after hearing concerns after the first round. They changed their policy and have said from the top of rail up is where everything's going to be measured, not from ground level, as I had previously explained to everybody at the last meetings. So this is where we have two betterment walls on either side of the right-of-way. And again, these are all measured 12 foot from center and 12 foot up from top of track.
Good question about the walls. Is there a gap between the ground and the start of the wall?
There may be if there's no other drainage in between the wall and the track.
How big would that gap be?
3 to 6 inches. So that gap may be filled with ballast, but we cannot hold water on the track. That's the worst thing for a track structure, and it will, over time, fail the track structure.
Is it a continuous gap or is it a channel?
No, it would be a continuous gap under the wall for 3 to 6 inches under that wall that could be and most likely will be filled with ballast to allow the flow of
How does that
water.
impact the sound?
It should not.
So having a 6-inch gap should not impact the sound?
It will, but
This is 3 feet below the top of the rail.
Okay.
So,
do you have any data on that gap? Regarding
other than engineering that we have to get water out from under the track, no, I do not.
But that's forthcoming.
We have information forthcoming, and as part of the FEIS, post-construction mitigation measurement is required. So if it doesn't work, then something else has to happen. 15-foot betterment, this is what Mr. Ehrlicher was referring to earlier. If the two budgets are put together, a 15-foot betterment wall, which would look identical to everybody else as a sound wall, but it's not, only in name only. It could be the exact same wall through that betterment area.
Is that 15 feet on starting at the top of the track?
Yes, every measurement that I just gave you is based on top of track. Other options, if the wall stays at 12 feet, is enhanced landscaping on the outside of the wall near the right-of-way lines. And as discussed, this is just a typical showing the hike and bike trail on one side. This trail may move to both sides of the track throughout North Dallas. It all depends on what the right-of-way conditions look like and if there's any other utilities or anything we're trying to miss.
So, I'm going back to my original question. How much space do you need, including the hike and bike trail on one side and the walls and two tracks?
I'll show you in some other pictures. So going into the budget, the pink mitigations, those are the walls that are dictated by the FEIS. Those are already in the budget. There are no number or dollars associated to that for those groups. Residential betterments, those are, again, everybody that's residential adjacent has budget there. And then the Conbelt betterments, where the mitigation walls do not exist, there's budget to put a wall if that residential adjacency group so desires.
So on that, it says 700 feet of linear feet on the Calhoun Community Way, right?
Yes,
But that could go down to 300 feet.
that is what the budget is based on, and that is what's in the FEIS for mitigations. As David mentioned earlier, there are other regulations that need to be taken into account. We are taking in those into account, and if we need to, we'll be asking for deviations on some of those requirements. But in no case are we going to put traveling public safety in jeopardy. So it is recognized. We are working towards that to maximize the wall to the greatest extent possible through those areas.
But it could be 300 feet or 700.
We don't know.
Right. So it's possible.
We don't know.
We've talked a lot about this document here tonight. This is the FEIS. It is available on DART's website at dart.org/cottonbelt, and it was signed as final in November. So anything environmental impact, noise, vibration, visual, trees, waterways, all that is addressed in the FEIS.
You talked about who signed that. Were the citizens or the public involved in that discussion, that approval? It seems pretty one-sided to me.
All of the cities were included in and part of the drafting of the FEIS.
The drafting, but not the approval?
Drafting and approval of the FEIS.
How were the cities involved? What entities, what role, what role?
So the FEIS got sent out in Marvin's,
Back 5 pages has a distribution list and everyone that was involved, federal agencies, state agencies, residential, regionals, local, and everything. So we go to it, you can see upwards of 200 or 300 names, local.
What happened if there's a material misstatement as one of the tables in this document?
We just can't address that.
What were you saying?
What is the answer?
so Dan,
You're asking me about a hypothetical situation.
It's
They're
not,
not,
it's not hypothetical.
so we're not prepared to answer that tonight.
Okay, so if there's a material misstatement, you can't provide an answer.
I'm unaware of a material mistake in the FEIS, and I don't know what the process is for addressing, determining that there's a material mistake and how that's addressed.
Okay, we'll find out how they communicate.
so again, this is the workshop group we're talking about tonight, Hillcrest, Coit, and the associated residential adjacent neighborhood groups. So the first one between Hillcrest and McCollum, this is Highland Heather Lane. And again, I've got a series of these to go through. So this shows that there is a betterment wall, and to the gentleman's point, it is showing all the way up to the roadway. These are just areas that are showing where the betterment dollars budget comes from.
Has that changed from the last time?
No, sir.
So that in the last interviews, you guys provided that the wall didn't go all the way. Did you provide in the last time that the wall went this entire distance?
Yes, sir. It may have been off a little bit because of my scaling on Google Earth, but yes, I've verified per the documents that these are the station numbers that account for the budget.
Okay. But the wall previously went from one street to the other end of the street. Is that what was provided?
Yes. I've added other detail to these slides. I've blown them up than what they were last time.
Can I ask you one quick question about that? You talk about line of sight.
Yes, sir.
The safety issues, which I understand, but if you go back to that other slide you were just on, if you look to the left, you'd have to knock that house down to have line of sight on the left-hand side.
And that's part of what I was talking about, that we would have to ask for deviations or something like that on line of sight for existing structures.
Okay. So the wall, even if there's no line of sight, would the wall extend there? Because you're saying it's line of sight, Roy, you can't build a wall, but you don't have line of sight anyway, whether you got a deviation or not. You understand what I'm saying? You'll never have line of sight.
And that is part of our design process to find that out and again, maximize the length of the wall based on existing conditions. So the cross section in this area, this is showing that sound wall, 12 foot from center, 15 from top of track. And then that is how that cross section will look in that area. And as you can see here, the drainage ditch is on the outside of the wall. That's why there's that gap at the bottom to be able to get the water to that ditch.
Presumably you've had this issue of line of sight with other DART installations, correct?
Me personally, I have not.
DART as a whole has had this particular situation. So if we showed you a particular street, like the Rocky Top homeowners behind, they have an issue of line of sight. Can you go to what you've already done in DART with a situation that is like that one, and how you put a wall up that is a betterment wall with the line of sight requirements that you have?
Yes, we will take those into account
No, I
after we do
mean,
the design.
you can talk to the picture tonight, because I'm a little bit annoyed that you represented a line for a wall, and tonight now there's something else that you didn't share with us till tonight about line of sight. So this is not the first time you've had a line of sight issue. What have you done in the past in other DART installations with a road just like Rocky Top to address line of sight? So we know tonight that we're not going to get a wall, or we're going to get something else.
I can't think of any specific example we have like that, nor could I describe that tonight. I'm asking you to give us an opportunity to work on the design development and bring back and show you a solution to that issue.
This is certainly not your first rodeo.
I can't,
Build these things all over.
I can't recall any specific example of where that issue's been solved.
In this picture, right here, and we're talking about line of sight, and my neighbor Dan here, you guys on our circle.
Same thing.
With what you're saying, it looks like there's going to be a wall that's going to block one home from the sound mitigation, and the rest is going to be line of sight issues.
So the sound wall limits will be part of the ongoing design effort. And we will bring that to you and show you how we're going to resolve that.
Well, you brought it to us last week and said it was mandated already, with that length of a wall. That's what you said.
Time out. So tonight is not about limits of sound walls. Tonight is about the Betterments program, the money that we have to spend, and we need your input on how to spend it. If you are interested in participating in that discussion, I invite you to stay and participate in that discussion. If you are frustrated because you're not getting answers to your questions tonight, I invite you to leave your questions in writing, and we'll work to get you answers on that in a future meeting.
Could the Betterments request that the wall go to the street rather than, and overrule the line of sight?
That, what we're all about is getting from you exactly that. What you think is important, what you would like to see.
Although he's not adjacent.
Then, well, I don't know if he's adjacent or not.
Can I ask you, do you think?
Hold on, I want to
do you
finish
think
answering
you're
this,
prepared for this?
I want to finish answering this gentleman's question. What we're here about tonight is we want everybody who is a residential adjacent property owner to tell us what's important to them. We're going to go figure out what's possible, bring back options, and show you what we can deliver. So I'd be happy to meet with you after, at the end of the meeting, take me to your specific location, and we can look at that, and I can see if I can answer your question. Yes, sir, do you have a question about betterments? Because from this point on, I'm only taking questions about betterments.
Sir, this is our time, and do you guys think you were prepared? This is the second meeting. You're only supposed to have 3 meetings, so at this point, you're really supposed to know.
No, we are resetting the first meeting tonight. That's what Chris said at the beginning of the meeting.
I understand
Tonight
what you're
is
saying,
a,
but the information, it feels like it's resetting again, because you guys don't have the correct information provided.
so we are only answering questions about betterments tonight. And we're here to reset and find out what you want. The second meeting will come back and show you, based on what you want, what we can do. So we're working the process. We think we can do it in 3 meetings. If it takes more meetings than that, we're committed to work through an iterative process to get your input to figure out how to spend the money. I'm going to turn it back over to Matt now.
So just walking through the rest of these cross sections, this is what that Rocky Top, Nicole Place area would look like with the sound walls. Again, 15 foot from center. And this is where you can start seeing where the trail is within the right of way. And to answer the gentleman's question about spatial dimensions, so we go from -50 to 50, so that's showing 100 foot right of way. From wall to wall is about 45 feet, 12 foot trail, ditches, everything fits within the 100 foot right of way. Moving on to Willow Green and Energy Lane, this is one of those instances where there's commercial areas behind residential, so that is one of those areas where there's no wall that's going to be going behind the commercials. Energy Lane is a mitigated wall, Willow Green is a betterment wall. So in this instance, and I've explained to the Willow Green folks and anybody else that's in a betterment, we're not currently showing the wall in here. However, when you look at your maps, it's going to go right there, similar to that one. So it's going to be in the same spot at 12 foot from center and 12 foot from the top of there up 12 feet. So that's where it's going to go. We just haven't put it into our design yet because we're waiting on input to make sure that's what the groups want. I'm assuming it is. So we're working towards that to be able to put that in. So again, this is just a little bit farther down towards Dickerson. Willow Green again would have that wall in that location right there. Moving across Dickerson to the apartments. Again, this area is all the Conville betterment wall.
Yep.
12-foot wall.
Need more than one.
So that's what that intersect or that cross section looks like. It's our tracks that are going to be staying about the same elevation throughout the North Dallas area.
This is what we want.
Again, moving a little bit down to where the apartments are. And then coming into Coit, this is where some additional betterment walls are going. And the cross section there with the bridge going over Coit. So a couple of the options. So this is what the right-of-ways will look like without any betterments applied to them. Right now, this is the wall that we're proposing for the sound mitigating walls, the sound walls. These are also what we're proposing for the betterment walls. Doesn't necessarily mean they have to be, but this is what AWH as a contractor is proposing to DART to be able to put out there for both the 15-foot sound walls and the 12-foot betterment walls. Some things to apply to the face of the wall are some artisan panels, vines, anything like that that will be applied to the walls. In the case where there's chain link fence required by the hazard analysis that my design team is going through to determine safety of the train, the right-of-way, and the folks in the adjacent areas. If fences are required, the base condition is a 6-foot chain link fence. There are betterment options if the residential adjacent group so chooses to change the look of that fence. In the betterment areas, if, and I know this is a big if sound was not the primary factor, other walls are available for your option to look at if you so choose to have a visual only type wall. These are just some ideas of walls, doesn't mean that this is an exhaustive list. Some of the areas where there's a key intersection with the rail and the road in the neighborhoods, just providing a few options of what an end treatment or an entryway to the neighborhood would look like. Again, these are the same thing. Landscaping, where there's residential adjacent landscaping, trees are planted 120 to 150 feet on center. This is already part of the base scope, so we will be planting those out there like that. If the neighborhood so required or so wish, we can use part of the Betterments budgets to increase the spacing of or decrease the spacing of the trees to provide more of a visual screening of either the wall or the train. This spreadsheet I know is causing a lot of confusion with people trying to calculate what they think the dollars are, what they think their budgets are going to go for. Please, when you put in your request, just put in your request without regard for the dollars. As those come in, we, AWH and DART, will calculate, tabulate, negotiate the value of that, and come back to the group and let you know what is possible with the Betterments dollars.
Sorry, are you gonna take a, I'm not directly adjacent, so I'm not part of it, but with your vote, are you gonna take like the highest voted one and then do it? You're not gonna have a bunch of different types of walls all linking up, are you?
That's not the intent.
Yeah.
So it would be Rocky Top, since I've heard that one come up a few times. So if there's 51% of those 11 homeowners say we want a 15-foot wall, we will price out the 15-foot wall and let that group know if there's any Betterments dollars left or not.
Yeah.
Right?
Lots of multiple different walls, I can't imagine how
You're
that.
saying that could happen?
What's that?
The inconsistent wall selections could happen?
My gut feeling is no, it won't, because we have to have 50% consensus for it to happen.
You're saying segment to segment though, it could happen?
From segment to segment, it could, because each residential adjacent group has their own say.
If you don't get the 51%, what's the decide?
We keep going until we get it.
I don't want to keep
Did I hear you say that Rocky Top from last time, you said it was federally required to get a 15-foot. Now you're saying if the homeowners want?
I was using it as an example. It is a required wall, but we still need 50% for the residential adjacency dollars on how to spend that. So if one group wants the panels on it and another group wants trees,
It's just decorative, okay.
Yeah,
decorative,
we're just talking about the betterment. That's all they're discussing. Not the mitigation.
Can I just ask someone, does a tree cost $17,000?
no,
And does a bush cost $2,000?
no.
So can you just tell me how that works for 1 5-gallon bush, how the math works?
And it's not a 5-gallon bush. And I am answering the question that was given to Gordon earlier. He will be responding tomorrow.
Okay, so the 5-gallon truck will get some clarity of
Yes,
how this works. But can you provide us what the dollar amount is?
not tonight. But yes, I have a whole slew of budget forms. And again, that's why I said, don't necessarily do your own calculations, because there is confusion that I've been hearing lately on this form.
Or just, it's a 5-gallon bush shrub that you guys provide. How much does one cost? Can you provide that?
I'd have to go back and see what my budgetary numbers are. I do not have it committed to memory.
Okay.
Okay, I kind of mentioned earlier, but you know, when everyone signed in, this go around, we have a voter ID, ballot ID that's assigned to each adjacent resident and property owner. That's an important number, so remember that. If you don't remember it, we will remember it for you, because that's going to be used in the method of voting that we're going to be having And we are working on the ballots, and those will be coming up in future meetings. We are tracking all your requests, whether they come in to us by the Cotton Belt website or by what you're submitting to us here at the meetings, so we can ensure the maximum participation. And like we talked about, the majority consensus for each section is required. Okay, here we go. So the next step for the next workshop will be, what we're really hoping is that we have betterment forms that I have back there on that table. I had those at the first meeting we had, but we have them again tonight, and we'd like for you to take a moment, fill those out. If you don't have an opinion and a thought on what you're really wanting tonight, that's okay. Those are something that you can scan and send to us later. We will be compiling those. We'd like to have them back by July 11th. And then so we can look at all of those, prepare them, and then present those options based on your all's feedback at the next meeting, which will be on July 25th. Yes?
So just to confirm, for the homeowners that are adjacent to the track on Rocky Top, they are getting a 15-foot wall. The only discussion is what kind of wall and or betterments like trees or berms that they can decide. Is that correct?
Yes.
Then secondly, you mentioned tonight line of sight. Are there any other factors that might impact actually getting a betterment wall, other than what you mentioned tonight, so we have no more surprises?
Nothing's coming to mind at the moment.
I just had a quick point.
What will that do to
Property value. I am not able to answer that question for you, and we are about to sit around and answer as many questions as you'd like. We are not going to be kicked out of this room, and we want to answer everything. If I can just get through just the methods of communication, and then, okay. So that website I know a lot of you are familiar with. You can submit your requests there, and from there, based on your questions, we get them out to many different departments and all the different people that are helping getting us answers. And again, now that's not just betterments related. That can be betterments, sound, vehicle, speed, anything that you've been asking about tonight. We have our dark hotline, and that's if there's something going on out there in the line and you want to report it, you can call that number. You can sign up for alerts at dark.org Cotton Belt. This presentation will go online tomorrow, so you can take a look at it. And again, our community meetings will be coming up in July and August. And you can also you can send your questions again to that website, and Lawrence Meshat, my supervisor, will work really hard to get you these answers. And that is his phone number right there, and he is great. So now we do want to open this up for questions about betterments and what you would like to ask in regards, in addition to betterments as well. Yes.
My question is on the yellow code. We're in the yellow, we're in the pink area. So what is the speed that was generated by the train to get us into a pink zone? And what are the decibels of that?
Okay. Well, I'll have to turn that over to, because I don't have the sound and decibel information with me. So that is something I definitely want to. Yeah, and the FEIS is on our website as well, so you can find all the information about sound and decibels. And again, as time goes by, we'll have more information available on that kind of stuff.
Well, that's true. That's what I want to know.
Please submit that request to the Cotton Belt website, please. Yes.
Yes, hi. I wanted to give you my email address. I live near Meandering Way and Rainy. I'm also on the dark board. I fought hard to get more money and dollars into the mitigation budget for North Dallas and our neighborhood. What I want to, the reason why I want to give you my email address is if you're not getting your questions timely answered, I mean, you got to give them at least 30 days to get, it's a lot of information to go through sometimes. If you can email me specifically what question you asked and when you asked it and what email address you sent it to, I will make sure that I look at that and get your answers timely responded to. So if that's not happening, so my email address is mwkrause@dark.org. I'm your neighbor. I want to, that's why I'm here. I'm listening to your frustration.